the place I want to start is with the Indiana Hoosiers, because let me make sure the timeline is right. On Wednesday evening, around like 5 or 6, word kind of got out that Mike Woodson was going to come back as the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Zach Osterman, the Indy Star, broke the news, or Jeff Goodman was able to confirm it. This is something that Jeff has been hinting at for the better part of about 2 weeks, saying that he does not expect Mike Woodson to be let go. And quite literally 24 hours afterwards, Liam McNeeley, the 5-star McDonald's All-American freshman from, I believe it's IMG, right? IMG Montverde. It's one of those.
He's at Montverde. He's at Montverde.
So from Montverde.
He's originally from Texas.
He announced that he is going to be asking to be released from his letter of intent to Indiana, which means that he is effectively decommitting. And that is that. The guy that you said was going to be the help that is on the way for the Indiana basketball program is no longer help on the way. Where does this leave the Hoosiers? Where does this leave Mike Woodson? And where should Indiana fans be looking to point the blame?
It was kind of confusing the way the whole thing went, to be honest with you, because like he was the perfect guy to come in and be a part of the roster that they had. Like he's exactly what they needed. He shoots the cover off the ball. He's a big guy that can guard probably 3, 4, maybe some 2s. And like he just, it was a match made in heaven by all accounts. And I'm kind of curious as to why. I thought he had a pretty good NIL deal to go to Indiana too. Like from what I had been hearing, so like a big time NIL deal. It's a weird thing considering the fact that the second that they say that Woodson's coming back, he then decommits. Like was he thinking that they weren't going to keep him, so he was going to stay? Like did he just have a change of heart? The timing of the thing is really weird. I want to say it was between Indiana and Kansas they ended up. I want to say those were the 2 schools. Kansas must have come in late and been like, "Hey, man, might have some little different happening." And with the way everything's structured now with NIL and everything, like you're going to have a lot more football commitments to where they flip last minute. Like that's just going to happen because we're going to have a last chance offer right here. And I think those things are going to happen more and more. I think it's a big blow for Indiana. Like, look, there's been a lot of bad things said about Indiana. Like would they have Archie did not win he didn't even get to the tournament. They've had other guys there recently that haven't had a ton of success, not named Tom Crean, and they're 17-13 right now. And what are they, 9-10 in conference?
Yeah,
they're going to probably end up 9-11. Like as far as like what are we going to do with Mike Woodson? My only thing is do you see a future with there? Do you see a future for the next 5 to 10 years? And I would venture to say probably, I'm confused at what exactly the plan is there, unless you're willing to kind of concede that you're not a big time job in that league anymore.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to where Indiana is right now is where does the growth come from? Like, how do you get to the next? Yeah, how do you get to that next level, right? And I think we all saw his quotes this week where he says I believe you can play basketball inside out, right? Well, the most important thing to be able to play inside out is to have the out part, right? To be able to have guys that can space the floor. I think when you watch Purdue play and you look at all these shot makers that they have around the perimeter, there's a reason why Zach Edey's able to do what he does inside, right? There's a reason why when Gonzaga's at their best running offense through the 5, man, they have shooters all around them. Like think about the team that went 31-0 heading into the national title game. They had Drew Timme. They ran everything through him. And they also had Corey Kispert and Andrew Nembhard and Jalen Suggs and all these different dudes that could just bury threes. That's the biggest issue for me right there. And then like I just if you're Mike Woodson, right, and you have the roster that you have right now, and you're not going to have any of these 5-star recruits coming in, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to hit the portal the way that it's expected from you to be able to hit the portal if guys like Khalil Ware and players of that ilk are who you are targeting, right? I don't know where they go from here. And I think it's about to get kind of ugly there because look, do we expect them to be able to bring everyone back beyond like Khalil Ware is probably going to the NBA, right? Xavier Johnson, unless he can find a 28th year of eligibility, it's probably
he needs to go on too. He's hitting was it DeAndre Williams territory?
Yeah. So
like that dude was a freshman at Pitt. My first year coming back from Europe. I had a 2-year-old son at that time, and now I have an 8-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Like,
yeah,
come on, man.
So I understand the frustrations that Indiana fans are going to have in this situation because I don't see where you get it back. And they're going to have NIL money from what I've been told is that it's not like they are not going to be hurting.
Trust me. Yeah. I now know Indiana's NIL situation.
Yeah.
People got so mad at me for saying like, it's just okay. No, I was wrong. Wrong. Here's a problem with that too. Here's a problem. Just get off on all. Nobody freaking knows what's true and what's not true. Mm-hmm. So even the people that say, well, Indiana has this, you don't freaking know that. You have no idea. This is hearsay. It's all freaking hearsay. And half the time when schools say they have X amount of NIL dollars, they might promise it. Those kids aren't getting it.
Well, yeah,
that's a big problem. It sucks. The whole thing sucks.
Yeah. If for any college athletes considering entering the portal right now, make sure you get yourself a good NIL agent. Don't let your uncle do it. Don't let your AAU coach do it. Don't let someone else do it. Get someone that actually understands how to make contracts. There's one kid I heard of. I'm not going to say who it is. I'll tell you after the show. That was guaranteed $250,000 to transfer to a school. Right. The first thing that he was going to get was a $25K payment up front and a car that he was going to be able to drive from one of the local dealerships to just kind of say, hey, I'm driving this car from this dealership. He didn't want to go with an actual NIL agent that was going to charge him the 20% that I think is kind of standard, industry standard right now.
That's insane too. Sorry, go ahead.
So he went with someone that didn't put an airtight contract together, and that $25,000 that he got up front was the last cent that he got from the collective and from the NIL people. So he's there playing at the school out $225,000 because he didn't want to pay the 50 or 40 or whatever fee it would have been from an agent to get an airtight contract. So
the problem too is these freaking agents aren't switching their percentages around for college NIL deals, and it's kind of a twofold issue because a typical contract, 20% of marketing agreements are given to agents because there's some extra work put into that, all that stuff. The problem is every single deal with these college kids is considered a marketing deal, which we all know is crap. Like there's guys getting paid $1 million to sign with the NIL company or whatever. They're not advertising for shit. And like, it's pay for play. And the second we change all that around, like you're going to be able to regulate a little more. There's a lot of kids getting freaking hosed. I was having a conversation with an agent last night. We had dinner, and like kids are getting screwed so badly right now because one, they don't know any better. The kids don't know any better, and two, the way a typical agent contract is structured right now, that 20% is too big a chunk, especially when these agents are simply negotiating with the schools. That's all they're doing. It's pay for play, and they're getting a 20% pay for play. It's insane. And they're considering it a marketing deal. Everybody's getting that. The students are getting hosed. The agents, if they're a good one, are getting banked right now. They are getting paid, and it's crap. Tangent. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And again, I think the biggest thing that needs to happen here that will make things go to normal is avoiding having to funnel everything through a collective and just say that these guys are employees, pay them through the school, right? They don't have to be official employees, but instead of having a collective pay that has to be funded by the fans, maybe just have these $1 billion TV contracts that are going to blow up all the conferences that we love, that are the reason why the Big Ten and the SEC are ditching everybody and saying, fuck you, college athletics. We're going to go do our own thing. Why don't you have all that money coming in for the TV stuff there? Let that pay for the guys that are going to be playing instead of having to rely on fans to be able to donate at $50 a pop so you can afford the $4 million it's going to cost for Mike Woodson to mess up another roster. Just before we move off Indiana and go into the next thing, if you are in that situation, what are you doing here? Right? Because I don't see how
Mike Woodson.
Yeah, I understand how. I mean, he was at the tournament last year. Trey Jackson Davis. He made that run, right? And I know that he has not had Xavier Johnson healthy, and I am a little bit. I understand what he is saying with that, right? Part of the reason why they weren't able to get another point guard to come in and get another transfer to come in is because everybody else in the market was looking at it and saying, you're going to give all the minutes to Xavier Johnson. I don't want to play behind Xavier Johnson. It's why you don't see depth anywhere in college basketball this year. It's why Kansas basically has like 4 guys. So I am a little bit sympathetic to that with Woodson, but at the same time, like, your job is to be able to find an answer with the pieces that you have at your disposal. And I think it's very difficult to justify beyond saying he's one of our guys, that saying he's doing the right job. I think it's only going to get worse. I think it's going to end up going down. And I would be very concerned about what next season is looking like if I'm an Indiana fan, to be frank.
Yeah. I think there's 2 jobs in that bucket right now in the Big Ten. I think Memphis is kind of or not Memphis, Michigan's kind of the same way. Like, hey, do we cut the cord? Do we go ahead and do it? Or do we, obviously Indiana's not going to, but yeah, it's where do you go?
Honestly,
like, well, here's my thing. What's the upside? What's the upside as opposed to where's the baseline? I think the baseline is where they're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's the baseline with Mike Woodson. The upside is probably a 4-game flip to where, like, instead of being, 17-13, they're 21-9, and they're in, like, that's the upside. But Indiana upside in my mind, and this is just a history perspective, like 25 wins, 27 wins. Like, to me, that's where Indiana belongs, and especially as adamant as Indiana fans were about that NIL situation, you should be better. You should be better, but that's according to the fans.
Well, and here's the biggest concern that I have with that is, let's just say they have, I don't know, the number out there for Villanova is over 3 million. So let's just say that Indiana gets over 3 million, 3.5 million, whatever it is, $4 million. But let's just say that they're not going to be hurting when it comes to a salary cap for who they can bring in this summer. Are you trusting that Mike Woodson's going to be able to identify the right guys to bring in? Are you trusting that he's going to be able to retain the likes of Malik Renault and Mackenzie Mbako, and they both are going to have their one-time eligibility, immediate transfer, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, I think what you saw with Michigan last year, and to me that's the perfect comparison, is that you had the really rough season. You had a team that kind of underperformed based on the talent that was on the roster. And then, oh, by the way, the superstar 5-man All-American center decided that he was going to go head over to Kansas. And that left you in a position where you had to go out and get Olivier Kamwa to kind of try to replace him, which is fine, and a couple of the transfers and a couple of the pieces and a couple of the freshmen, this, that, and the third, and it just didn't work. And I think it's very easy to look at this Indiana situation and see those parallels and see where this thing is trending.
Yes. The only kind of optimistic point of view that you can take here is if you do lose bodies, and everybody loses 2-3 guys right now. If you do lose them, you can recoup them fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And if your pockets are as deep as what Bloomington people are claiming them to be, then that's a good thing, because then you can completely flip your roster. Is Mike going to be able to get you to that level that you so desire? That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yep, I agree.